Hello. So it's Tracy again. Um, if you can hear the bath running, that's because my partner is running a bath. You may hear him singing at some point. We'll see how that goes. Um, so I think the last time I posted was post hospital, where I was found to have mild pneumonia and a campylobacter infection, which is like gastroenteritis caused by the campylobacter bacteria, um, which I most likely um, got from those kittens. We had cats for a month. They were about 6 months old. They were very sweet. We named them Pony Mustard and Brucey, and they were very sweet. But they had diarrhea the entire time. We had them for 4 weeks, literally from a Wednesday to you know 4 Wednesdays later. And there wasn't a single day where we didn't have to clean up diarrhea off a carpet, furniture, or hardwood floor. And sometimes, most days, it was multiple times. And yeah, we tried. We took them to the vet, like overnight emergency hospital stays for both of them. One of them had to actually stay for 3 nights, and the other one just stayed for one night. They were both given their deworming medications again. Um, They were both put on antibiotics, which we gave them religiously, which is really hard for a cat who's quasi feral and you've only had for a couple weeks. Like the trust really isn't there. So it was an emotional nightmare having these very sweet, innocent kittens um, who I just lost the capacity to be able to deal um, because having been so sick, having to go to emergency and spend about 10 hours there during a pandemic while also just starting medication that compromises your immune system, and then having my house be filthy. I just, I was so overwhelmed and just in such a bad place. Um, so we ended up giving them back to the shelter, and I'm sure they've let us know that they're doing really really well, and I'm sure someone will adopt them because they're adorable and very sweet animals. And so that's the saga of the cats in all of that. And so I took my methotrexate, and then during that week I got really sick. Was told not to take my next dose, which would have been like the day after coming home from the hospital. And when I spoke to the nurses at my rheumatologist, they also said take next Friday off. So I had a dose of methotrexate, my first one, at zero point 0.6 or 60 on the actual needle. Missed a week, missed a week. Then I did 60 again. That's what they told me to do. They're like, don't go to 80, just stay at 60, do that again. And so I did that last Friday, and Saturday I was um, just tired, just a little bit tired. I don't think I even slept, like had a nap in all of that, but I was just like really lethargic and really didn't have any interest in like doing any big projects or going anywhere, going for a walk or anything like that. I was just like, nah, I'm just gonna lie here and read this book or sort of close my eyes and drift a little bit. And then I felt fine. Like I felt really, by Sunday, I was like, oh, no, I feel totally fine. Um, During the week, I noticed I was kind of nauseous, um, but I think it's actually from anxiety because they never told me like what does the nausea from methotrexate look like. But I found online that it's really like the first day or two afterwards, and that it's not going to last the week. It fades away, um, and I just found like I was getting really anxious, especially around yesterday, the Thursday morning. Well, actually, Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. I was starting to get really anxious about like, what if I get as sick as I did again the Thursday? Steve's watching videos, I think, about tin whistles because we got some tin whistles for Christmas, and they're really fun. Um, so I don't even know if you can hear that tin whistly sound in the background. Um, but I was getting really nervous to have that come up to the like, took my methotrexate time, like 5 days later, me getting incredibly sick. So I was just really anxious because being in the hospital was not great. I mean, everyone there was absolutely lovely, 100%, but it was really, really stressful. And I didn't know what was wrong with me, which is really scary. Most of the time when I'm in a merge as an asthmatic, I know exactly why I'm there. I know exactly what my treatment will be. And it's kind of like, you know, a day at the office kind of thing. Whereas this was felt really unknown. I thought maybe I have COVID, right? I had many symptoms and they treated me as if I did have COVID, which is exactly what they should do. So I really didn't want to go back. So I found myself really anxious and stressed out. So much so that like I'd eat something and then it would just sit in my stomach. And then I was like, oh my God, it's the same thing happening again. And really, it was just nerves. Because last night I was fine, no fever, like, of course, right? So today, and just I guess half an hour ago, I did my next, like, this is the first time I've done it week to week. I did my dose of 80, so zero point 0.8 milliliters of methotrexate. And so I'm curious to see how this will go. So this is my first increase. So my first 60, I did not feel great. My Saturday was like a wash. I remember I mostly slept the entire day. Sunday was like, okay, I'm a bit better, and then it was like boom, back to work. The next 60 I took, which was last Friday, like I said, felt totally fine. Saturday was just a little bit quiet and tired. I don't even think I felt nauseous. I think I end up taking like probably about 3 milligrams of folic acid, just as a precaution, that kind of thing. And I'll probably do that again tomorrow. I've already taken, of course, my 1 milligram of folic acid today, and then I'll maybe take 1 or 2 or 3. I'll definitely take 1, but maybe 2 or 3 tomorrow. So yeah, I'm curious if that's gonna like affect it, having taken it, like if they upping the dose. And then next week it's supposed to be 1 milliliter, like the full 100 on the needle, and that's where I'll stay. Like that's the top dose, and so that's where I'll stay um, for however long. I think it's 6 months. They sort of expect it to be about 6 months because I think they're watching to see if my like inflammatory markers come down in my blood. I also today went and got my first monthly blood check to see how my liver's functioning, what my red blood cell count is, and that kind of stuff. I noticed that when she pulled the needle out, and then like I pressed really hard because I was like, okay, I want to make sure this doesn't bleed because I know red blood cell count can get impacted, and so I was pressing really, really hard, and she pulled it away, and blood popped like just right to the surface right away. So I had to hold it for longer. So I don't know if it was that or that she wasn't that great at it. Like it felt like the entire time she had the needle in me, she was pushing it in slightly more. Like every second it was in, and I've never felt that before. I'm really good with needles. Like the nurse who did my IV, he did such an amazing job that I didn't actually even feel my IV go in, and this is just like a needle. Like this is nothing compared to an IV, right? So that could have been that, or I'm a little bit worried maybe about my red blood cell count, my clotting, which is clotting. As you can see, I tend to worry a lot or think about all these kind of like ramifications of things because that's the kind of person I am. So yeah, that's my update on the second dose of methotrexate. And yeah, that it felt really successful, and so I'm quite hopeful that that this one, even though it's 0.8 more, that I'll be totally fine as well. It's really interesting. Since I've sort of made it quite public in my friends on social media and stuff that I'm, what my diagnosis is and medication I'm going to be on, how many people I know who actually are on it as well. I've had 3 people come forward and tell me that they're on it and share their experience with it. Out of those 3, only 1 ever felt terrible on it, but she's taking it for, I believe, lupus, or she's like, her autoimmune system I think is quite complex and what's going on in it. And she said even though she felt really bad on it, she did find it quite helpful. And the other 2, who were both men, said neither of them felt anything like negative about it at all. Like that didn't bother them 1 iota. And and that they both found improvement. One of them is also on other medications for rheumatoid arthritis. Um, and so methotrexate is part of that, and he feels fine on it. And the other one is someone who's only been on it for just a little bit longer than I have, in fact. And he let me know, it was so nice to hear that he'd gotten his first blood results back, and things were looking really good. And that he'd actually noticed, I guess he's been on it, or I guess he'd probably done a couple blood tests, but it was the first time I think he had an appointment, like with his rheumatologist, and had noticed, he's like, I didn't realize how many of my, like, what you think of as just like adult or middle-aged as we are, like aches and pains. He didn't realize how much of them were his rheumatic arthritis. And so that was really nice to hear. I'm like super happy for him and hopeful for me, and just reminding myself, because I can get into a spiral with it, like, oh my God, it's compromising my immune system. I have to remind myself you've been using this drug for a really long time, like 30 years essentially, I believe. And it's been highly effective. And I always just find it funny because almost all my medications that I take are ones that they just had around for donkey's years. Like my asthma medications, those have been around forever. Like some form of salbutamol. I'm on some kind of like, form of that, and a steroid, like the sprays, like those have been around forever. I'm on Synthroid. That's been like, that stuff is so cheap, like in Canada anyway. It is like pennies essentially. It's so cheap because it's been around forever. And that being on methotrexate is also like tried and true. There's something in that for me that feels more comforting, knowing that it's a medication that has really sort of stood the test of time, and that people, it's so good, like they're very willing and happy to prescribe to people, and they know the protocols of how to monitor it and what to look for, and then what to do if it doesn't work. So I'm very hopeful, because I don't want to think that having to inject myself was for nothing. Yeah. So I guess that's about it. I might do an update next week depending on how my the 0.8 worked, the 0.8 milliliters. And then, yeah, next week, if all goes well, I imagine it's going to go well, I'll be up to the whole 100, the 1 milliliter. I don't know how to say, like, it says 100, but I'm like, so milliliters? Like, what is that? If the 100 is 1 milliliter, what's the smaller form? I don't know. If someone knows, please let me know. Yeah, that's it. Okay, bye.